lights are dimmed, the projector is running. The classroom has become a setting for use of a very effective teaching tool, the classroom film.
I'm dancing because it's disco and it's the 1976 presidential election, guys. Welcome to HipHughes history. If you haven't been here before, we do these really broad-based kind of lectures. We're doing the 76 election for you right now. So if you're studying for a test, maybe AP Government or an Intro to Poly-sci class, or you're just really weird and you watch videos online to learn, this should be pretty good for you, but definitely not for a research paper, you know, like doctoral stuff. What the hell are you watching me for? But Jiminy Crickets, here we go. Giddy up. Electorally, let's look at the map, and I think we're accustomed to these maps by now, and certainly if you've been watching these previous elections, we can see blue for Democrats and red for Republicans. But the candidates are Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter is a Southerner. That's really important demographically. He's a Southern Democrat, and they're still around, even though we saw really the realignment of a lot of former Democrats to the Republican Party with the American Independence Party and the Dixiecrats, and leading up to 72, where Nixon just carpet bombs the South red. That he is from the South, so he's going to attract voters that want a Southern politician to be elected. And on a value kind of thing, you can't say that Jimmy Carter is an acid-dropping hippie. He was a peanut farmer. He was governor, very religious man, not overtly like, you know, in his policies so much, but definitely in his heart. So that's going to be really attractive. It's going to be attractive to the silent majority. We've used that term before. And Southerners that really are, for some of them, it's going to be the last time that they vote presidential Democrat forever. But you can see that demographically and electorally, Jimmy Carter does very well in the South. And he is the first Southern president, I believe, since Zachary Taylor to be elected from the South. That's 1848, so that's like a million years. So, it's a really big deal. So if you're writing an essay, definitely something about his Southern roots in Georgia and him being religious in the silent majority. Gerald Ford, up on the wall there, he is going to be the Republican nominee. He's the sitting president. If we rewind a little bit, watch this. We know that he was the president after the Watergate scandal, and Richard Nixon resigned. And one of his biggest mistakes, and he had a few of them, we'll say something nice about Gerald Ford in a second, was that he pardoned Richard Nixon. That was like his first big act. And to pardon, Nixon kind of like rubbed Watergate all over him in a sense. And he really was never adequately able to explain, or he refused to, why he did it. So it looked like he maybe had a connection there, and I think a lot of Americans held that against him. There's a lot of cynicism in political life, at the end of the 70s from that Watergate scandal, and I think even going backwards to like the 68 convention and even to like the Warren Report and the Kennedy assassination, that Americans had begun fundamentally to distrust their government. So they're really ready to change. And they're going to change with Jimmy Carter. In the primaries, there was a lot of different Democrats that ran. One of them was George Wallace, right? George Wallace is a different kind of Democrat. But Jimmy Carter really portrayed himself as an outsider, as a moderate Democrat who could come in and pragmatically deal with problems and fix the mess of Washington. So I think that cynicism from Watergate, notwithstanding the pardon that Ford gave to Nixon, is going to be a big deal. I think Ford made a mistake. Ford kind of had this Rose Garden strategy of trying to look presidential and, giving big speeches. And it was the bicentennial, so he's like, holding hands with babies. You don't hold hands with babies. Maybe he's holding a baby, watching the fireworks. But nevertheless, it was really good, I think, on TV for him. But he really failed to connect, I think, with ordinary voters by doing that. So that might have been, kind of a flawed strategy at the end of the day. There were other, kind of minor things, like economically. I know that Ford is a little bit more to the right of most of the country. He wanted to, I think, end price controls on like oil reserves or something, and kind of that laissez-faire deregulation kind of mode, and that didn't play very well for him, I think. But at the end of the day, if I'm writing an essay, Gerald Ford, nice guy, clumsy, pardon Nixon. What else are you going to say? And Jimmy Carter, definitely Southern, definitely religious, internally, and definitely a reformer, and I think that's going to work well to his advantage. Just looking at the electoral map really quick before we say bye to you kids out there in TV land. Again, down south, you can see a lot of blue, and you might want to say goodbye to it because it's going away forever, or for at least till modern day politics. Really, this shows you, the last time that the Democrats were able to align, Democrats in the South and that New Deal coalition of Democrats in the North. That's the New Deal coalition. It's all blue, basically for economic reasons. But if I kind of do this a little bit, you look behind my back. Actually, I can zoom in. Watch this. You can see that in the West Coast, that's Gerald Ford land, right? We didn't talk about Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan almost had the nomination that year. He challenged Gerald Ford, and I believe it was the last time in 1976 that a convention opened, kind of in, not knowing who the winner was yet. It's kind of in disarray. We thought that maybe kind of the GOP might have done that this year, but they kind of cleaned up that mess, and I think they're raring to go with Romney. But Reagan represents that West Coast conservatism. Remember that. Goldwater's from the West. Nixon's from the West. Reagan is from the West. So it's kind of this Western kind of independent, libertarian, maybe limited government kind of feel that's going to sweep the map really in a big way in 1980. So that's 1976. Nice and good for you. I don't know what else to say. Maybe I'm not wearing pants. That's true. All right, guys, we'll see you for 1980. I can't wait. Yeah, 1980s. Rock on. We're not gonna take it.
All right, now, from what we've seen in the film and talked about, can someone give me the definition of a commutator? Sharon, give me your definition.